Welcome to Johannesburg, South Africa. This is my home city, my favorite city in the entire world. But today we're going to talk about something that was of stark contrast to me when I've spent quite a bit of time now, 2 years in the Netherlands doing my PhD. So, when you live in Johannesburg, security is everywhere. Guards, dogs, bright lights, armed response vehicles driving around, huge gates, walls around houses, and it kind of just becomes normal. We all just get used to it. But I didn't realize what it cost me until I left. So there's actually a reason why security, you can see this is an electric fence, is so visible here. Cities like Johannesburg, and I'm not proud to say this, but has one of the highest crime rates in all of the world. It has crime index scores that I think are definitely in the top 10. And I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, I will correct myself here, it's the fourth most crime-ridden city in the world. And South Africa as a whole, so not just Johannesburg now, has one of the highest homicide rates in the entire world. It sits at 42 murders per 100,000 people. That is actually insane. Some stadiums can hold almost 100,000 people, I think. I will correct myself if that's not true. But that is an insane amount of murders. It's not something to joke about. So sometimes these things you see, they're warranted. And these numbers, these statistics don't just change policy around what's allowed to happen and what's not allowed to happen in these cities. It changes how the individuals that live here think, move, and what we expect from the world. So this over here, this is barbed wire. This was, I think, the invention kind of before electric fences were there. This was everywhere. Now, most houses actually have barbed wire as well as electric fences, which is kind of crazy, but almost a necessity. So if we look at my situation, when I moved to the Netherlands, something shifted. I didn't think about risk every time I left the door. I used to go for my 10-kilometer runs, and I didn't think, oh my gosh, is there someone following me? Who's behind? Must I bring my pepper spray? That slowly shifted after a year. I left my pepper spray behind, and I didn't have to plan my routes anymore based around, oh, there's no street lights here, this is a little bit more of a dodgy area. I kind of just got out the house, ran 10 kilometers, and turned around. And my friends used to laugh at me in the Netherlands, but I used to keep my bag locked with like a carabiner or locked and make sure it was in sight everywhere. My valuables never in my back pocket of my bag. And they were so confused as to why. But in South Africa, that's a reality. Most people just do that. You don't even think about it. It's how you survive here. And that weird sense of freedom that exists in the Netherlands, where I kind of landed up not doing any of these things anymore. It was freeing. This like lack of constant vigilance around yourself and your surroundings. It wasn't just nice. It was something that I never realized I was missing until it's gone. I grew up in a situation where I had to check my back every 2 seconds. I never knew that there was another way of living. It was a contrast. It blew my mind. So you see behind me over here, that's a Boomdorf area. We are currently in about a middle class South African neighborhood, I would say. Obviously, there's an incredible wealth disparity here in South Africa, and it's actually heartbreaking. We have billionaires in some other part of Johannesburg, and then we have very, very poor people on another side of Johannesburg. You can go from one to the other in less than 15 minutes. But the area I'm in, I want you to notice the tall walls. You can see all of the walls, every house. You can't even see the house. It's all fenced up by a big wall. And most of them, this one does not actually have it, but this wall is probably more than 2 meters, maybe 3 meters high, they will have some sort of spikes or some sort of deterrent on top of the wall. Here is a boomed-in gate that is not, you can't, it's a public road, so anyone is allowed to come in. However, the deterrent here is if they see that someone is suspicious, they will ask them to sign in a book, and they come in here. Like, you're not allowed to stop anyone from coming in here, but you can act as this level of deterrent again. But this is something that I tell everyone, because I'm a big advocate for South Africa and Johannesburg, and crime shouldn't be the reason you don't visit or the reason you think that the people are terrible here, because they're some of the best people in the world that live in this country and this city. It's so diverse. It's incredible. But even with the big walls and the boomed-in gate and the electric fence and the spikes, and every single house here will have an alarm system. There are usually security companies on the wall. I will put some pictures here of some walls with telling you what armed response company is looking after the alarms. Doors will also have gates. Everything will just... That's South Africa. But the tricky thing is, there's no such thing as total safety. Not here in Johannesburg, not overseas in the Netherlands, nowhere. But from my personal experience, when you leave a place where danger shapes your movements every day, I have to lock 3 gates before I leave the house here in South Africa. I'm just going to put my glasses on because it's really bright. I'm not complaining. I love the sunshine. But as I was saying, when I have to leave the house, and danger is kind of everywhere, and it's always top of mind, even if it's not a conscious thought, it's just how you live here. And then I go somewhere where this danger doesn't exist. You start to understand the weight of constant vigilance. But safety, it's an illusion. There's no such thing as being safe, because something can happen to anyone, anywhere. It's just, when you live in a place where the prevalence is higher, it's heavy. It's really heavy. And I only realized that heaviness when I moved to the Netherlands and I got rid of it. And then you come back here and you have to, this weight almost just gets put on your shoulders to be aware. I am now been here for 5 days visiting, and I'm back to my normal thing. Open the door, quickly lock it, put the alarm on, close the gate, don't go running at night, see who's behind you, watch your surroundings. You do build street smarts. I can promise you, I can handle myself a little bit, I think. I say this, please let nothing happen, touch wood. But there's something that I do feel for my people here in South Africa. It's really difficult, because you kind of just got to carry on with your life and exist within these bounds, which is hard. It's tough. It's another thing you have to worry about. Because the crimes here are no jokes. So the weight of a lack of freedom of movement without this constant back thought is really heavy. And I feel like it only becomes apparent when you live in a society where this doesn't exist. So security through visibility isn't design. It's compensation. It's what people do when the system around them can't protect them. And maybe the hardest part isn't that safety doesn't exist. It's that you don't feel safe until you're somewhere that isn't shaped by fear. Nobody is truly ever safe. But there are places where you don't have to prove it every time that you step outside. And this is not a knock on Joburg or South Africa. There is something about, I've said this a lot, is that morality is a privilege. I don't have any children, but if I had children and my children were starving, the question about stealing to give them food becomes an easier decision now, an easier decision then than it would now, where there's a hard line where stealing is bad. It's something to think about. When there is such a big wealth disparity in a country, South Africa is one of the worst in the world. You have very, very rich people, and then you have very, very poor people. Poverty is so terrible. And a lot of people just resort to stealing, taking things, what they can, just to make that little bit of money so that they can eat food the next day. So this is not a knock on it. Obviously, crime and stealing and murder and everything's bad, and I'm not condoning it, whatever. But you also got to look at it from an angle of a sympathetic eye. There's something that the government needs to do about this. We need to. People need jobs, and there's no jobs here. It's really sad. It really breaks my heart.